You're listening to The Moose and the Loose, your 10 minutes action-packed financial podcast with your host, Mike Yahoo. Hey, what's up, Mike Moose? Mike from The Moose on the Loose. Welcome to this Business Friday, where I'm going to explain how I invested over $300,000 in the past 5 years, and I don't have much to show for it. That's kind of crazy, right? I mean, if you are a regular investor and you put roughly like $60,000 a year in 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, and then 2024, that makes like roughly $300,000 that you invest. Over the past 5 years, the return on the market would have been about 10%. Like usually I would not plan for 10%, but I mean, that's what happened over the past 5 years. So imagine $60,000 every year at 10% return over the past 5 years, you would end up with more than $450,000, actually close to $500,000 in only 5 years. That's kind of crazy, right? And that would be like definitely the way to fire, like quickly, because you're putting so much like money on the side and you have like a good nest egg. If you can do that for another 5 years, then you would have to plan for a lower rate of return, of course, but still you would be in a pretty good shape. On my side, when I look at my bank account, I don't see it. When I look at my corporate bank account, I don't see it at all. So what have I done with that $300,000? That's kind of crazy, right? Well, here's the thing. I invested in my business, and it all started in 2020. It was a pivotal moment for Dividend Stocks Rock. As you remember, we had the COVID outbreak in March of 2020. There were like lockdowns across the world. The stock market dropped by like more than 30% in a week or something like that. That was like crazy days on the market. And then I had kind of like a panic attack. I never had a panic attack, but I was like probably like the closest to freaking out that I ever did. I sat down in my closet, actually on the floor, and then I started to freak out because I was thinking, well, if nobody wants to invest anymore and they have no interest in the stock market because all they want to do is to follow what's going to happen with this outbreak, how am I going to convince people to stay subscribed to Dividend Stocks Rock? That doesn't make any sense, right? I was not the type of person who's like, oh, I'm going to sell my stocks and it's the end of the world. But I was more thinking about how can I convince investors that are like members at Dividend Stocks Rock to do exactly the same thing as I did back then, which is stayed invested with high conviction and go through the storm. But I saw that as a real threat to my business. So I thought, okay, Mike, you have two options. All of this happened in literally like 5 minutes. I told myself, okay, so you have either option A. Option A is you go all in. You work more, you produce more webinars. Back then, I did like 6 weeks in a row with a weekly webinar for my members to keep them on board, to answer their questions, to lower down the fear. And I then decided to invest massively in the business. So it was either you go all in or option B. Well, Mike, you're a victim. It's not your fault. Those things could happen like once every 1 or 2 years, but it's likely going to crush your business. There's nothing you can do. So just hope, pray if you want, whatever you do, but it's out of your hands and you just have to let the business go and see how it's going. So of course I did not choose option B. I decided to say, you know what, whatever is in my control, I can do. I can work more. I can do more webinars. I can do more videos. I can invest in the business and make it even better. Those are the things that were in my control. And this is what I decided to do. So between 2020 and 2024, so we're seeing the end of the year. I mean, we're 6 weeks off before we go into 2025. Crazy, right? So if you have like year-end goals, it's pretty much time to press the accelerator, but because it's almost done. So between 2020 and 2024, that reinvestment, that capex, that capital expenditure. So same thing as like when you look at financial statements for big companies that you're about to invest, it's pretty much the same thing. I reinvested in the business to improve the technology, build more projects. During that time, my revenue, the business revenue, actually not my personal revenue, the business revenue more than tripled. And I'm super happy about that. I'm super proud of my team. And that was like a crazy feat. So when you increase your capex, there is a compounding effect. Of course, I'm talking about revenue here. I'm not talking about profit. I'm not talking about cash flow. I'm not talking about liquidity in my bank account. So if I compare the situation of a regular investor putting $60,000 aside each year in the market, probably have between $450,000 to $500,000 today in its brokerage account to show for it. I have nothing. I have like financial statements, but that's what it is. It's just revenue growing. But this is how capex work, right? The capex is like investment that you make year over year in the future of like in the hope of creating in the future more revenue, more cash flow, and be more profitable. That's the assumption. So you have to be careful when you analyze a company with large capex because it takes time. Of course, like those projects will not necessarily generate cash flow right away, and when they do, most of it will just come back to pay off debt, right? Which leads me to the second point about capex is on top of like taking times, well, it's not guaranteed. Of course, when you read about a capex plan, when you do your due diligence about a company, management will tell you, oh, I know that it's the great place to invest. We need that money, but it's going to generate a lot more cash flow down the road. It's going to be a great success. And the project will be just like creating a lot of value for shareholders. You know what? I sounded exactly like this when I was telling about my projects to my partner. I was just telling him, dude, like, don't worry about it. It's normal that we get into more debt. It's going to grow the company. It's going to be good for the revenue. It's going to be good for members. So they will stay longer. It's going to be amazing. Well, that's what I thought, right? Fortunately for me, this is what happened. But sometimes this is not what's happening. Sometimes companies, we see that on the stock market all the time. They spend billions of dollars and they don't generate much more cash flow. And that's what we say in the financial industry, how to destroy value for shareholders, right? So it takes time. It compounds though, but it takes time. It's not guaranteed. And one other thing that is super important that I realized this year is once you start investing more, so once you start to have like that capex budget, it's almost recurring. Because the more you work on your projects, the more you find ways to improve it, the more you have ideas, and the more you have to invest. And every year I told myself, oh, this year should be not too bad. I don't have that many ideas right now, so we should be fine. And every year we have like massive investment done. Massive improvements as well, which is one of the key success of Dividend Stocks Rock, and members just love it. Actually, they stick with their original cost, and the platform keeps on improving. So that's amazing. But then even in 2024, I thought, well, this year is going to be pretty slow in terms of capex, and that was true for like first 6-7 months. And now at the end of this year, I can say that, damn, I found more projects and I found more ways to reinvest. And here I am spending a lot of money into the future of the business. So it's hard to stop the capex budget. If it's true for me, it's probably true for a lot of big companies that you're about to invest in. So be always careful with capex or capital intensive businesses. Yes, you want to yes, it makes sense to invest in the business, but you want to invest in companies with a proven track record, a track record where management actually used those capex to generate growth for shareholders and not just to waste money and destroy value. So it's super important. To wrap this up, capital expenditure, a necessity for most businesses. If you don't invest, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're going to die. That's how businesses work. So I'm super happy to have made those investments. Of course, I would have preferred to have $500,000 more in my bank account right now, but that's okay. I mean, I'm building the business. I'm having fun. That's the most important part. The team is growing. Projects are getting better. Members are happy. And that makes me happy. But capex take time to compound. It's not guaranteed, and it's almost recurring. It's very hard to stop. So I'm pretty sure in 2025, I'll be spending something around $50,000 to $60,000 again in the business. So, all right, Moose, that's enough for today. I hope that you will have an amazing weekend. On my side, it's going to be frisky but sunny. It's going to be great. A lot of sports that is planned as well. So, and we are cooking a huge spaghetti sauce on Sunday. It's always fun. I just love this. We put on some music and a good Cabernet Sauvignon, and then we just cook. So, this is my kind of Sunday. So, all right, take good care. We're gonna talk again on Monday. And until then, don't forget to stay invested. Hey, welcome to the disclaimer. If you're listening to The Moose and the Loose, you cannot really expect me to give you buy or sell recommendation or financial advice, right? You're here for fun, you're here for information and some entertainment. But I am not your financial advisor, I am not your broker, so therefore I'm not liable if you're losing money after listening to the podcast. If you're looking for some advice, go see a professional. If not, you can enjoy this show and do your due diligence after it.